you can't do everything optimally or else you would do everything poorly, I think. And so sometimes you have to say, you know what, this is a season of life and this is what I want to focus on, and some stuff is not going to be balanced.
Welcome to Life Unleashed,
the podcast all about creating the best life for you and your furry best friend.
If you're a dog mom on the go, juggling life, work, and the endless joys of being a dog parent, then you're in the right place. I'm Dani.
And I'm Nick.
And together with the incredible dog mom community from Tails Up Pup, we're here to share advice, stories, and the obsession we have over the love for our dogs.
Get ready to laugh, learn, and lean on each other because life with your dog just got even more awesome. So a question that we often get asked is, I want to start a business, but I don't know how. Where do I start? What should I do? Give me the details. This is a question that or a topic, I should say, that we love to talk about, and there's a lot to cover. And we're just going to dive a little bit into it today.
So if you're new to entrepreneurship or you have an interest in becoming an entrepreneur, this one is for you. We will share insight, our knowledge, and the answers that I typically give when people message me asking for advice on starting a business or wanting to do something different with their life.
And we've been, this has kind of just come from our own personal experience. We're not saying this is the right way to do things. This is how we've done them. These are the things that we've learned. We have made so many mistakes, and I think it's the mistakes that you learn the most from. And if we could do it again, start back over, I think we'd have a much better chance of avoiding those mistakes, I would say now.
And overall, this podcast specifically will be generic to entrepreneurship as a whole. But if you would like a in-depth one on dog bandanas or the dog market in, specifics, then let us know and we can do that as well.
The first thing that I would say is if you're considering becoming an entrepreneur is really stop and think about that, because you're probably it's a big undertaking to take on. And I think that if we would have known how hard it would be ahead of time, we probably would not have taken the leap.
Yeah, that is so true. When people are like, how'd you get started? And then everyone knows the story. We made a bandana, put it on the dog, and it took off from there. We were just like, let's sell these things. We had no idea what we were getting into. But I do think, that almost like childlike brain of like having no fear and not really caring and just going for it did allow us to do it. So there's a happy balance, because my biggest piece of advice when someone's asking me what to do is just start, because so many people spend too much time getting bogged down on it being perfect, and it will never be perfect, but you change things along the way anyways. And so you just have to start. But it goes back to what you're saying of, understand what you're getting into at the same time.
I think social media really glamorizes being an entrepreneur and things like that. And there are great, amazing things about it, but it is a lot harder than I think social media makes it out to be.
Oh, even our page and everything that we post in general totally glamorizes it. We share all the happy moments, all the fun things, getting packages, buying new things, having 3 new embroidery machines, all of the glamour, but we don't show all of the bad.
The stress, the staying up late. There's literally the list is endless, and the problems continue to manifest themselves. They continue to come. I feel like business is literally just solving one problem after another, and the problems never stop coming. And which is what makes it fun. That's part of the, I guess, appeal to it for me is it's always new, it's always different. But yeah, I would just say that know what you're getting into. I do think, like Danielle says, you have to have a little bit of that childlike desire to want to do that, because if you don't have that, I think you won't ever get started. So
my joking answer to a lot of people is to have Ensley's job. You get to work for the entrepreneurs, and your input is valued, and you're allowed to execute a lot of ideas. And if you work at a different, bigger company, no one high up might ever even hear your ideas, or you might not have any sway in anything. So if you work for the small business, then you're not spending your own money, you're not doing your own stress, you still get to go home at night and close work off. But that's just, again, my joking answer, because if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to do it. If you have the desire to be the entrepreneur and you're working for the entrepreneur, then you're never going to feel fulfilled, because you're not doing what you want to do.
I think that's actually a really good point. When you said that, I'm thinking to my younger self before we got started with this, if you were college student, a high school student, or somebody that's working in a big corporate job and you have this dream of becoming an entrepreneur, but like you have a lot of fear and anxiety around it, I think, like we said at the beginning, as you should, because it's very hard, maybe a really good step is to go work for a small business or somebody that is going to kind of let you learn more or less at their expense, not yours. You're going to be getting paid.
And a handful of our employees have done that, and they've been open and honest when they've been hired. You know, I have an interest in starting my own business, and this is where I want to start. And we've been happy to take them on.
So I think it can be very helpful to go learn from somebody else. You'll learn the things that you like. You'll learn the things that you also don't like. You'll get to see mistakes that they made, things that they do really well, just all the things that you're learning from them. And then you can kind of make the decision of, is this something that I want to go take on myself? If you just make that plunge right to go with, you're going to learn on your own dime.
I do think a lot of issues at the end of the day come down to money for a lot of people. Am I going to have enough money to start this? Am I going to have enough money to fund my life? Those are big things that you do need answers to before you start, because if you can't pay your bills, then you're going to be on the streets or, hungry
or
whatever.
Going right back to what you were doing before.
And the more that I've gone in this entrepreneur route, and observed my friends and other people that I look up to, Nick and I are a very unique situation because husband and wife are doing it together, and at somewhat of a small scale. Obviously, if you look at these bigger small businesses, because you can have like 150 employees and still be a small business, those people are different. I'm just talking about like literally small businesses, and we are both in it together, so we don't have another stream of income at all. Where most of my friends, most of the other people that I follow on social media who have these small businesses, the husband or the wife has another job, so they're not both relying. And it comes down to healthcare as well. Healthcare is so expensive, and if one person has a job that gets it for both of them, that's also a relief as well. So if you're not married to or living with or in a family with the person that you're starting this business with, you have a lot of things to think about as well.
Yeah, I think you need to have a lot more financial runway, I'll call it, than you think you do. You're like, oh, maybe I can go 3 months, with no income and I'll be fine because I have that much saved up. Maybe try to make it 6 months to a year before you quit your job. Or another thing that I think is really important to do, we, again, did not do this really, but is to, if it's just you by yourself and like you're your only stream of income, for instance, try to do it on the side, like on the weekends, after working hours, to where you still have your money coming in from your other job or whatever you're doing. And then, kind of start to build, at least in the back end stuff. Or, if it's a totally new innovation or idea that you're working on, do you even know that there's a market for it? I think
but even if it's not, if you're trying to do dog bandanas like us, that there's people who sell them and make a living off of it. But how are you going to differentiate yourself, and what are you going to do? How are you going to sell this product? Are you sure people are going to buy your specific product? There's that to think about too.
Yes, I think you can start at such a small scale before you have to jump off without the parachute to kind of get things going. I do think at some point there comes a time where you do truly have to commit. And what I told Danielle in the beginning when we were starting Tails Up Pup is, because we fully jumped off right away, I was like, it's going to be really hard for other companies to compete with us that are just doing it part-time. It's hard to compete against somebody that's putting their full effort into something when
But it is possible.
But it is possible. And the thing is, at that point, you're trying to proof of concept for whatever it is. You're not trying to make it your full-time gig right that second. You're trying to learn, do it on a small scale, and don't get crazy. And another thing that I think that is the glamour side of it is everyone's like, oh, I want to go buy all the equipment. I want to go maybe even rent the office space or hire employees and spend all this money before you've made a dime. Now, some businesses, if you're saying, I really have a dream of starting a restaurant, well, you kind of have to do those things before you start the restaurant. But maybe you don't. Maybe you say, I'm going to do, like some private chef stuff, or, depending on there's other options that you can go kind of test it out before you make massive financial commitments, when you don't have any income coming in.
Well, that's the best thing about starting your business while having a different job, because if you've been following us for a long time, I used to talk about this way more, that we started this business with almost no money. We bought a $100 sewing machine. We bought a few yards of fabric. It was less than $200 that we invested to really start this business.
We were in our basement.
But we had to make enough money to pay us because we weren't working another job. So we had to learn and figure it out real quick, or we weren't going to be able to make it work.
Our savings is dwindling quickly.
If you have a different job, you don't need a lot of money to start if you have enough money to pay your bills.
That's right. I mean, you still got to have a place to live, food, all of those things. So there's just a lot to think about as you're making that consideration of, should I start? And I think it's hard because every individual situation is so different. Like I said, a restaurant is way different than saying I want to start a dog bandana company or some type of like e-commerce where there's maybe a very low initial investment.
My other big piece of advice for entrepreneurs in general is, what is going to set you apart from your competition? Why is someone going to choose to spend their money? Because at the end of the day, everyone works hard for their money and everyone has a certain amount of money. So spending money is a conscious decision. So they're not just, willy-dilly throwing money around. They are deciding where to spend their money. They see your product. What is it that is going to make them choose yours over someone else's, or just choose yours to spend their money on in general? What is your purpose? What is your reason? What are you providing that no one else is? And finding really,
Well, I think that gets into also your own motivations. Like if you don't have a strong purpose or why you're wanting to start this business, I don't think that you're going to, because like I said, the very beginning, it's so hard if you don't have this thing motivating you, and making money is not the thing. That is not a strong enough motivator, because it's so hard and the money is so small in the beginning that you'll lose all your motivation. It has to be a deeper purpose for why you've chosen to do this business. And the great thing about that, if you do have that purpose and that why, then that's going to resonate with a community and other people, and that's what's going to set you apart.
The word I was looking for was differentiate. What differentiates you from the competition?
And differentiation can come in lots of different, shapes and flavors and sizes. And I think some of the best ways to differentiate yourself really does come down to things that nobody else can copy. And that's your personality, your why, just being authentic about why you're doing this,
It could be giving back with a portion of your proceeds. It could be that you have a pattern that no one else has. It could be a brand new invention. It can be literally a scale of different things.
But you do have to have something that differentiates you, or you're just another, me. Now there are companies out there that are successful at a Me Too product, but I think if you're starting out, it's a much harder path to run.
And no one likes a copier. So don't look at someone and do exactly what they're doing, because honestly, then you're not going to have purpose in yourself. You're just going to be constant, and you'll always be a step behind, You're going to constantly be waiting for the other people to come out with the thing before you, and then you're going to have to catch up and copy them again, and it just doesn't get you very far.
Well, and the other thing that's been so essential in building Tails Up Pup has been this great family, this great community, because ultimately who's buying your stuff? People. And if you're just being transactional, then they may buy your thing one time, but they're not going to come back. And that gets, to have a successful business, you have to have, your customers that are coming back all the time, whether, you're a local coffee shop that has your regulars, or the restaurant that has your regulars. Tails Up Pup, we have the community and the regulars that, are shopping. And that's because they believe in our mission. They believe, in Danielle and I, what we're trying to do in the world. And so building that community is so important. And if you don't have that purpose initially, I don't think it's going to resonate with them. If it's a copycat product, communities don't build around, a copycat Me Too product.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say that one of our big things is the community aspect, and having people who care to be here, who want to be friends with each other, who love their dogs, have a common interest, all of those things. The community is something that really sets us apart, and you can't buy that,
Yeah, Danielle said from the beginning, I'd rather have less followers, and every follower that we have wants to be here. And I think that's a very good mentality, because a lot of times we get caught up as entrepreneurs in these metrics of like, I'm chasing these numbers or chasing the followers. And, when you're thinking about your business, or if you're in the very beginnings of it, don't chase that follower number. You want the people that are there to actually want to be there and to stick around and to, be part of that community that you're investing so much time and effort into.
I was literally just talking about this the other day, but if you are starting a business in today's society and you're not online on social media, anything of media of some sort, then I don't think you're going to make it, because that is where our world is. And it doesn't...
You're running uphill for no reason.
I'm not saying you have to have an online store. Whatever, like I'm even thinking my stepdad is a stonemason. Like if he doesn't post photos, social proof on his profiles, then what are people coming to see? They want to know what they're getting. They want to, honestly, reviews too are a huge thing. So in the beginning, you might have to literally beg people to write you reviews by saying, here's 50% off your next order. I'll give you something for free if you write a review on it, whatever it may be. Getting those reviews is so essential all the time, but specifically in the beginning too, because people want to see that someone else had a good experience.
Yeah, literally it does not matter what industry you're in at all. I mean, I can't think of a single thing that I would spend my money on that I'm not going to go like read a review. The only time that that's the case is like in emergencies, more or less. But even then, a lot of times you're still looking.
And the other thing that we've learned through our research is that people actually like seeing some bad reviews because it makes them feel like they can trust that source. If everything is good, you're like, are these legitimate? There needs to be something that someone didn't like,
Yeah, we try our best to make sure that we, give or provide service where we only get good reviews. But, when you do business long enough, you're going to find somebody that you can't make happy. And so when we do see those negative reviews, we're like, you know what? At least people will know that we post all our reviews.
Right. Every review gets posted as long as it's accurate and truthful to whoever's truth that is, But I was going to say, too, with the social media thing is I'm not saying you have to do what we do. We literally run our business on social media. We post every single day, videos, photos, like it is a full-time job, and you definitely do not have to do that. But you have to have some type of thing there. Like my stepdad, who's a stonemason, does not post every day. He doesn't even post every week, but he has enough content there for people to come know his style of work, know what they're getting, and that's how they choose to hire him.
Yeah, like I said, there's no reason not to do it. It does take time and effort, but you don't have to spend your life doing it, just enough to get out there. And I think you'll see the results speak for themselves.
And in my opinion, growing a community is much easier online for a lot of reasons. But honestly, I feel like specifically female, just because I'm a female and I know a lot of females, find it easier to talk to a stranger through a screen for the first time. So even if you're trying to construct meetups in person and go on a run with a group of people or, go shopping, whatever it may be, it's easier for people to associate for the first time online.
Well, and if you're a brand, say you're like a local coffee shop and somebody, you're like, oh, should I go, like have that coffee or whatever, and you see that the brand is like communicating online all the time and you feel like there's this community there, you're like, oh, this is this fun, safe, friendly place, and I want to go. Versus if it's radio silent or people are not communicating or anything like that, you don't really know what you're walking into.
I am a person with anxiety, and I hate going somewhere where I don't know where I'm going to park, what it's going to look like, where am I going to sit, and so having social media help, that's also a plus. I feel
like with reduce anxiety.
You were just talking about coffee shop, and I'm just like, those type of things that I look for on social media really help.
But it's the same for online businesses. People don't like surprises. They want to know, what they're buying online in person is going to be what they see.
And likely if you're an entrepreneur, you are one person trying to reach many people, because you need many people to be a part of your community, be your customers, whatever. And so you just don't have the time to cold call or personally reach out to all these people. So if you can have a social media of some sort and you, the one person, post and blast it to everyone, an email, whatever it may be, it is so much easier to spend your time effectively that way.
The next piece of advice, now that we've talked a lot about community.
I thought you were going to go into email for a second.
No, not yet. We're not getting that, granular or tactical right now, I don't think, unless you want to. But we talked about community, but okay, who is that community? And this really gets into like the most important thing is you need to be talking to a specific person, quote unquote, your avatar, your ideal customer that you want to buy your stuff. And I will tell you this right now, the more specific, the better. If you say, I want everyone to be my customer, you are not going to be successful.
This is one of my main points. I always talk to people, the target market.
The target market.
Who is your target market? Because it can't be everyone.
And the more specific, the better. Even companies like Amazon started out, they started with books, and their customer was not, everyone that wants to buy anything online. Over time, they evolved to that, but no matter, and you're not Amazon most likely, so it needs to come from a very specific place.
Even ours can't be anyone who owns a dog.
So one of the best ways to figure out who this person is just think about the ideal customer that you want to be interacting with and to be part of that community. And that's when you do that, you're going to find you will find that person because you're going to be speaking to them, and then you're going to attract more people like that. Over time, I think the community can expand, but no matter what, you're still talking to that person. And don't think about it as like this, person that doesn't exist. Think about a real person, and maybe go find one. You probably know one, and that can be your first customer and solve problems for them. And then when you're solving people's problems in a specific way, that's really how businesses are built.
I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs, you are creating something because you want it. And so you must have some of those qualities in your target customer as well. So if you're really struggling, think about yourself and why you're creating this and what is it that those people would also have and maybe what they don't have.
If you've seen a common thread, we keep using this word why a lot, and why or purpose. And like if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to identify that target customer. You're not going to identify whatever product or service it is that is solving their problems.
That can be your headline if you are sitting down trying to figure out your path for your entrepreneurial journey is what's my why? That will really guide you in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, I mean, it just answers so many of like the fundamental questions that you need to figure out to get started.
I briefly mentioned this about being okay with changing things, but having the adaptability in just the things that are happening in the world. We all just went through a pandemic and we had no idea. We had to adapt. We had to find ways to continue our business or we were going to have no way to pay our bills. You just have to figure it out, but you have to have that willingness. I mean, if you guys know Ensley, and I even just recently posted, y'all were asking in a Q&A how she feels about the move. Like, she does not like change. And a lot of people don't. I mean, it is scary. It is unknown. It is, people just like a routine and they like to know what they're getting. But you have to be okay with change if you're an entrepreneur because it's going to happen. You didn't start this thing perfect. You don't know what you're doing. You're learning along the way, and you're going to have to change things, not only in your business because of what you're learning, but because of outside factors as well. If you are moving into an office space, you don't know if that building's going to be demolished or there's just other things that can happen that are out of your control that you're going to have to learn to adapt to.
Well, I think business is all about learning when to pivot and what directions to move in. And sometimes the answer is to not pivot. Sometimes you need to stick it out, but it's hard to decide when to say, okay, maybe the market is trying to tell me something and this isn't, where I should be going. And I think a big pivot for Tails Up Up was we were doing only dogs. And then it was like, well, maybe we need to pivot and become more of a dog mom shop.
Which, the initial thing was always pivot to cats. Everyone always said, well, why not cats? Why not cats? But we did not. We went against the grain. We did not go for cats and we went for humans, which was a very big leap for us. I was going to say my favorite thing from watching the pandemic affect everyone and their business was seeing how people adapted and chose to survive during that time and how many things actually stayed and became normal. There were a lot of things, that we thought would stay normal. A lot of people thought people would wear masks forever or get to work from home forever. And those two things really went backwards again to the way that they used to be. But our neighbors here are a catering company who do strictly events, and all the events were canceled during the prime time of COVID. So what did they do? They used their cooking experience to make at-home meals where you could drive by, pick it up, and put it in your oven at home. And I was like, wow, that was so brilliant.
But you got to be willing to do it. I think humans, I know most of us hate change, but we really are very adaptable. We thrive when, new situations are put at us and we have to come up with a solution and to do it. You're built for that.
I feel like I'm almost the complete opposite in when people ask what my plans are, or like, I don't know. But I'm just like, you never know what's going to happen. I'm always open to change because we've learned so much in these 5 years that things are going to change whether you like it or not.
And you can either go with the tide or you can fight against it. And it's much better to be willing to pivot and to move in a new direction. And the companies that do learn to pivot and do it successfully, they're still around. And the ones that don't, they're stubborn. And, a lot of times they'll go out of business.
Along with change and adaptability is our view on work-life balance. And a lot of entrepreneurs ask us, how do you find that balance? If you watch our videos from 3 years ago now, when we were moving into the office, the whole big reason we were moving here was so we had work-life balance, so that we could close the doors. We could go to work and go home and turn work off. And realistically, if you are an entrepreneur, you really can't turn work off. So while this did help us create that separation of not physically being able to do work, we still worked so much at home. And now we're going all the way backwards and bringing the business back into our house because we no longer want that work-life balance that really wasn't there anyways, because of our family that's growing. And we want to be able to work when we want to work and not work when we don't want to work, and having the ability to do that whenever we want. So really we are going backwards, saying, okay, we're actually going to have no work-life balance so that we have work-life balance.
Well, this gets right back to one of the first things that we said at the beginning. You really may not understand what you're biting off and how much work this is going to be. I think as an entrepreneur, you have to do what is necessary. And sometimes what is necessary is you got to work 80, 90 hours a week for years on end. And a lot of people be like, well, you're going to burn out, things like that. Well, if you don't do that, you may not be successful. And if that's what you want, then that's okay. That's why I'm saying it's not for everybody. Entrepreneurship can be so hard. And if Danielle and I had the philosophy of, we're clocking in and clocking out and we're doing our 40 hours a week and, we'll do a little bit extra if we have to, but not a lot, that's what it's going to be, then we would have been out of business a while ago, I think.
Yeah, it just takes so much work. And I don't think that social media shows it. I don't think anyone truly understands what they're getting into. And we can preach it now to you, but you won't ever truly understand until you just start doing it yourself. There is so much work that goes on. It's not all fun and games. It's not even all, making orders that we show. There's so much computer work that goes into this business, taxes and the legality of everything and customer service. There's just so much planning all the social media and actually creating all the social media. It's pretty easy for me to set up a tripod and film everything I'm doing, but then someone has to edit all those videos. It's just everything adds up and it's a lot of work.
One thing that stresses me out about the idea of work-life balance and I think it stresses me out because I know that I'm not balanced, but it's how do I check off all the, slots of the work, the idea of the balance. And that's how do I work enough? Do I get enough exercise? Do I have enough family time? Do I have enough time with my friends? Do I have enough time, for myself? All these things. Am I getting enough sleep? All of the stuff. And it's you can't do everything optimally or else you would do everything poorly, I think. And so sometimes you have to say, this is a season of life and this is what I want to focus on, and some stuff is not going to be balanced. My life is going to be unbalanced for this season, but you're choosing that and it's okay. And I think to be really successful at stuff, almost all ultra successful people are extremely unbalanced. If you look at, the people that we put up on a pedestal, professional athletes, their life extremely unbalanced. If you look at somebody that's going to go become, a
Jeff
doctor,
Bezos.
Yeah, even down to people that are more normal, like doctors, any professional degree. To get that, you have to be pretty unbalanced to actually achieve those things because you have to put so much time and effort to get there.
And if you are an entrepreneur and you're in a relationship with someone who's not in business with you or who is not on board to help you, and help can come in so many different ways, and that's really hard to say, but Nick and I have the same exact schedule. So we take our priorities of working out, having dinner together, those type of things, and we are able to craft our schedule so that while we aren't balanced, we have time together, we have time to do the things that are important to us, and then we work the rest of the time. But if you were now involving someone else, you're either going to feel like you never see them, you can't have a relationship with them, or you aren't working hard enough if you're doing the other things.
Yeah, I missed that whole thing, like your relationship with your significant other. I mean, that's a huge thing that people want to spend, a lot of time with. And fortunately, because of what Danielle just said, we naturally get to spend a lot of that good quality time together. And it's something that, some couples have hobbies that they go do together. Our hobby is what we've chosen to do with our lives, which is building a business. And we both love doing that together. And we feel like that is quality time a lot of the times.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, you're bringing up doctors and lawyers. Like if you're married to one of them, then a lot of times the significant other feels like they don't get to see them and that they work a lot. And that's kind of how entrepreneur life is as well. So just think about what you're getting into and what else you have in your life that is important to you and how you're going to make it all work.
And, if you haven't started this journey, then you're kind of, hearing our opinions up front and just, like I said, know that going into it because it takes so much more money, effort than you think from the beginning.
And if you're like me and you wanted to have a baby, like how are you going to run your business and, make it work? If you're trying to start a business and start a family at the same time, that's going to be really hard. A lot of people that I see on social media start their business when they wanted to be the stay-at-home mom too, which is also, I feel like, a really good idea. If you financially are able to be a stay-at-home mom, and then in that time while your baby's napping or whatever, you can start a little side gig, that would be a good use of time too.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that about starting a business is the options are unlimited. You can do it at almost any scale that you really want to. You can do it as a tiny side hustle, and that is amazing. Or you can say that I'm going to try to do this full time and build this whole company. You can do whatever you want and anywhere in between.
The other, I don't know if you said that was the last thing, but this can really be the last thing, is that people are always asking, how did you learn how to do it? Or, did you go to school for this? Lots of those types of questions. So yes, we went to school for business, but no, we did not learn most things that we do in our business. And YouTube was our best friend, and Google. You can find so much information on the internet, and asking someone, like when people message me and say like, how do I thread my embroidery machine? Like, I just don't have time. I'm not a teacher. And so people even like me who have experience might not be able to help you. And I know, because how did I learn to do it? I watched a YouTube video. So go on YouTube and type it in and watch some videos. And yes, it is hard because the videos might be mirrored or like might not be the same exact machine as yours, but it'll help guide you. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And then you're going to figure it out.
And part of, I think, the process of becoming like an expert in something, you have to be willing to be that beginner, learning. And when in that learning process and failing and messing up and all these things, that's how you actually learn to be like, oh, the reason that you can't thread it that way is because I did it this wrong way and that caused this to happen. Right. So now I know not to do that. And that applies to anything, not just in threading an embroidery machine. I realized that I have to, this is how you do sales tax. And I realized that I submitted it wrong the first time, whatever. It came back, and I was like, now I had to call the people. You had to sit on hold for an hour.
Very frustrating.
But those are just the things that you have to put in the time to do, and that's why it takes a lot of time to run a business, because there's all these things that you're figuring out along the way.
I was gonna say, like, all of the embroidery was learned through social media. Like, none of us knew how to do it. But even down to our bare bones of dog bandanas, we had no sewing experience. We had no any experience, and we learned to do it. We made some crappy products in the beginning because we didn't know what we were doing, and we just sewed until we learned to sew better, and then you just learn from there and grow from there.
Yeah, I kind of joke that the first 500 to 1,000 bandanas, there's no way those are going to be as good as your 10,000th bandana.
But surprisingly, they did not crumble and fall apart. I still see some of those out and about.
Well, and I think that gets down to what you had said early on, is like at some point you just got to start and not waiting for everything to be perfect. And that gets down to, like, I think it's called like a minimal viable product. What are you okay with putting out into the marketplace, knowing that maybe it's not perfect? Of course, you were going to get better over time. We didn't sell the very first bandana that we made. We made prototypes and different things like that.
You got to practice.
You got to practice and put in your time.
And then you got to know the worth too. Okay, this isn't perfect, so let me sell it at a discounted price.
Which is exactly what we did.
Yeah, and get some opinions and feedback and reviews, and how, does this size actually fit on the size dog it's supposed to? Because you probably don't have every size dog to try it on. So you got to get some guinea pigs, and not literally literally some tester dogs and figure out sizing and all that stuff.
I guess a good way to end this, unless there's something else that you wanted to talk about, is that you can do whatever you set your mind to. There's a lot of, negativity, or not negativity, but just like, I guess, realistic things that we've shared in this podcast. And I'm not trying to scare somebody away to becoming an entrepreneur, but I do want them to know it is very difficult. It can be very stressful. It is very hard. Your work
costs a lot of money.
Cost a lot of money. Your life may not be balanced. It's not going to be as easy as you think it is. But there are so many great benefits, and it's amazing for the people out there that this is like the path that they're supposed to go on.
And if you find that purpose, find your why, then you'll be motivated to, conquer all the hurdles and all of the obstacles along the way.
And Danielle and I love talking about this topic more than almost anything. We're super passionate about business, so you can always ask us questions. We do our best to respond to everybody. If it's a question like, how do I thread my embroidery machine, as Danielle said, we may not answer that. If it's, how do I register my LLC?
I usually answer them and just tell them I'm not able to assist them, but...
Right.
Yeah.
If it's how I, register an LLC, these things you can Google, but if you have other questions, whatever it is, reach out and we'll try our best, because we love talking about this. We truly are. We're passionate about business.
I hope that this pushed you in the right direction, whether it be start your business or not. Maybe you learned this isn't for me, but maybe you feel motivated to go and conquer it.
Or maybe you're going to be the one that says, you know what, maybe I'm going to go work for that small business owner for a year or so and kind of learn some things.
We are not currently hiring, but other small businesses might be. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up or a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.